Hello, and welcome to another edition of Brave New Leaders, where we discuss what CEOs and business owners need to know about making, designing, implementing better winning strategies. My name is Mark Snoekers, and for the past 2 decades, I've worked with CEOs, senior executive teams, and senior leaders of companies like BMW, Deloitte, HSBC, Lufthansa, McDonald's, the OECD, De Beers, and so on and so forth, helping them to design and execute winning strategies. Today, I work mostly with CEOs and business owners of startups and SMEs who don't necessarily have the large strategy teams or the sophisticated systems these big companies have. And I want to make strategy accessible, give you clear definitions, provide structured content on how to think about strategy. If you'd like to learn more about me and my work, please visit my website at snoekers.com. That's SNIUKAS.com. Okay, so let's talk about business level strategy. In a prior episode, I talked about corporate level strategy, and we said that corporate level strategy is all about defining what businesses, answering the question of what businesses do you want to be in. Now, once you have made the decision what businesses you want to be in, and in that video, which we're going to link to below, we talked about that this idea of corporate level strategy, although it sounds corporate and for big companies only, it's even more important, I would say, for startups or small and medium companies, because they get confused very often which businesses they want to be in, and they kind of jump on every opportunity. So if you haven't listened to that, please go there and check it out. Now, once you have made a decision of which businesses do you want to be in, that's the moment to turn to business level strategy. And in business level strategy, it's all about answering the question of how are you going to compete in the businesses that you chose to be in. Now, this answering the question of how to compete in the businesses that you have chosen to be in is mainly about answering two questions, namely where to play, so where do you want to compete, and how are you going to compete, how are you going to win in the businesses that you have chosen to be in. Now, where to play or where to compete is a matter of making decisions about who is your ideal customer, which customer target groups do you want to focus on. Then it's about deciding what do you actually want to offer these customers. So what are the products, the services, what is the customer experience that you want these customers to go through. Once you have decided that, you also need to decide what are the necessary activities that you need to perform in order to produce and deliver your products, your services, and your offering. Now, I would encourage you to go broad and think about all the activities necessary first, and then in the second stage, you think about which of these activities do you want to provide, and where do you need to partner, where do you need to outsource, where do you need to use suppliers. So in other words, you need to define, if you look at the entire value chain of activities, you need to define which ones that you want to focus on, because maybe you have core capabilities that you can leverage, stuff that you are particularly good at, where you can add value, and other things which might be commodities, you outsource them to partners, or you create an ecosystem of partners who can provide these. Now, once you have the activities, then you also might think about what are the resources that need to be done below these. Now, differentiation, for example, also when it comes to activities, can come from switching the sequence of activities. Now, you might remember or skipping activities like Dell used to be a direct supplier, was the first computer manufacturer to sell direct, so they skipped distribution, they skipped wholesale, they skipped the end sale part, they just did all of this themselves. This is one way of reinventing activities, the activity system, if you like. But Dell also switched the sequence of activities. What I mean by that is that in the traditional activity chain, you first have to source your raw materials, you produce, you put them on stock, you deliver them to the wholesaler, and at the end of the day, you get paid. Well, the customer buys, the customer gives you the money, and then the money kind of travels all the way back up. So somebody needs to finance the whole value chain, if you like. Now, Dell turned this upside down, because with Dell, you had to call them first. You ordered your computer and you paid already. And only once Dell got the money, they would then start sourcing the raw materials. They would start producing and then shipping it to you. So by turning around this process of payment first and not at the end of the chain, they were able to have a negative working capital for quite some time, and customers basically financed the whole supply chain. So Dell didn't need much external financing in the initial years, which was also one of the key success factors of it growing so fast. So where to play, you need to define who is my target customer, what is the product services customer experience we're offering, what are the activities where we will play. And then second part of the competitive strategy, of the business level strategy, is about how to win. And I tend to think about how to win along 3 dimensions. First dimension is, how are you going to win over customers? So why will customers actually come to you? Why will they buy from you? What makes you different than your competition? And so it's not only about differentiation or low cost. Just because you are low cost, nobody will actually buy from you, because the original definition of low cost is that you can offer a similar service at a similar price, but produce it as lower cost, but nobody's just going to buy from you because you are lower cost. So if you have a low cost strategy, if you have a low cost positioning, you might still need to think about how can you use some of that margin you're making to have a different positioning, have a better marketplace display, for example, have a better place on a shelf in a supermarket, or you might want to pass on some of that bigger margin that you're doing as a price decrease to your customers, so you differentiate mainly through price. So you need to think about how to differentiate. And there are these different generic ways on how you can differentiate, and I spoke about that in length during another video, but basically it is about having a close customer relationship. So customer intimacy is one way to position yourself. Operational excellence, in the sense of being very convenient, being low cost for the customer, is another example. Typically Amazon, I would put that into an operational excellence category, because it's very easy to do business with them, it's easy to buy from them, it's very convenient, and they offer a good price. And then the third one is, so you have customer intimacy, you have operational excellence, and the third one would be product innovation, so being a leader when it comes to the product. And again, I had another video where I spoke about that in length, so we'll link that below, you can check it out there. So how are you going to win with your customers? Second dimension to think about is, how are you going to win as a business? And this is where this idea of differentiation and low cost comes in, because again, if you're going back to the original definition that Porter gave on differentiation and low cost, he said that it's about making margins. So the question is, how are you going to make your returns? Are you going to make returns because you differentiate? So you can offer a differentiated product, and you can actually, or service, and you can actually ask a price premium for that. So this is why you're making margin, making a higher return, because you have a higher price, a price premium that you can ask for, or you make a higher margin because you are low cost. Again, if you're low cost, it's more the internal where you look at that. Just because you are cheap, the cheapest on the production side, doesn't mean that anybody is going to buy from you if you offer it at a similar price. So you need to think about how to differentiate with your customers, how to win your customers, and you need to think about how you're going to win as a business. By the way, Porter in the original text also said that it might be difficult to do differentiation and low cost at the same time, but he said clearly that it is possible, although not easy, but it is possible. And so the third dimension you need to think about when it comes to how to win is how to win against your competitors. Now, obviously, how to win over your customers and how to win as a business, these two elements, they also going to define, or they have to be seen at least in the context of what is your competition doing. So it's not a particular, or let's put it that way, it's rather a check whether what you defined in the how to win over your customers and how to win as a business makes actually sense and is differentiated from what, or gives you a competitive advantage compared to your competition. So it's something that you should always kind of look at and think about, how the choices you make about how to win over your customers and the choices you make how to win over, or how to win as a business, how is that going to help you win against your competition? Obviously, the where to play also needs to be taken into account, but I would encourage you to actually really think about it. So once you have thought about where to play, how to win the customers, how to win as a business, you also look at, so how is that going to help us to win against our competitors? Now, once you have defined the where to play, the how to win, well, you also might want to think about your ambitions. So what do you actually want to achieve? Some people suggest that you should start with that and then only go into where to play, how to win. I find that usually you have some idea when you start, and then once you go into where to play, how to win, and you have a specific position, a specific competitive strategy in that sense that you have developed, you might want to go back to your ambitions and refine them, because they might change, or at least they become more granular if you are more specific at this point about your customers and your offer and your value proposition. Once you have these three things, the fourth thing you talk about or you need to think about is, what are the capabilities that you need? And I would encourage you again to think broad. So kind of the question is it feasible, or what do we need to make this strategy happen? What are the capabilities we need? What are the skills we need? But also, what are the resources we need? Be it money, be it specific assets, be it specific IP, maybe that you need. What are the resources you need, and how do you get them? So again, it goes back to, do you have them, or can you use what you have? Do you need to build them? Maybe you need to buy them externally. But the question of what are the capabilities you need is a very important one, which very often gets forgotten. Capabilities might also include what is the organization that we actually need. So many of my clients, when we come to this point, they need to think about maybe reorganizing their org chart, creating a different kind of organization, which will be more aligned with that new where to play, how to win. And this point of the organization is very often forgotten. You might also want to need to look at what are the ways of working. How do you work currently, and how does this way of working, the way of leading, the way of organizing, how does that need to change in order to be able to really put your strategy into action, to turn your strategy into action? So these are the four main questions. Again, the core is where to play, how to play, and then you refine your ambitions. You need to think about the capabilities, the organization, the ways of working you need to make this strategy happen. And always keep in mind, it's about how are you going to compete. So this is it for business level strategy, briefly and succinctly. Now, if you liked this episode, please give it a like, comment, and share. If you didn't like it, then let me know what I can do better. See you next time. Bye.